when you talk about growth, I would like to know what comes to your mind when you think about this word growth, right? What word comes to your mind? How do you define it? If you were to define growth by just one word or one sentence, what would it be? What does growth mean to you? Yeah? So it's one of the terminologies that is, I think we take for granted because it naturally happens. You can definitely, you can just look at yourself and see growth, right? Like it's visible, it's seen, it's natural, right? So we kind of know it. We kind of know growth because when you're born, you're a baby. Now you can speak, you can comprehend things. You were not like that. So growth is just it's an aspect that we want to see it happen. It's a sign of life. It's a sign of existence, I would say, right? So if a baby is born and over time that baby does not develop, like legs are not growing, like they're not able to talk, as a parent you probably get worried because of that, right? So there is that prediction around growth that when you're of a certain age you need to be expected to grow, right? If you're of a certain age as a child, you have not started speaking, it brings concerns, right? So it's something that is natural, so we kind of take it for granted because we kind of expect it to happen. But it's not always the case, yeah? So you can be an adult, but you probably are growing physically. It's visible, but probably there are areas in your life that are not really growing, and we're gonna talk more about that. So I want us to go beyond that natural level of growth that is predicted easily, that is expected, that occurs by default, to the kind of growth that makes us more responsible for, right? So you find individuals, or if you're working in an organization, or or if you're a student, whoever it is, you will notice that institutions, individuals, initiatives, they always have targets, and it goes to countries, definitely. We talk about the growth, the GDP, right? Like the growth of a nation, its economy. So it goes to globally. So it's growth is a very important metric to kind of measure how well something is doing, like measuring development, measuring progress of an institution, or a nation, or something, an individual. So it's like an important metric of performance, of development, progress, things like that, So that's growth in its general level, and so it's very important. So if you're hired in an organization, probably you'll be pressured to meet objectives of the organization, and those objectives, they're kind of linked to increasing growth or performance that is measured through growth, right? So nobody wants to stay the same. Nobody wants to stay the same by any means, right? So you're working hard to help this organization not to stay the same by meeting their growth objectives, right? So have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what am I working for myself, towards myself, to meet my own objective so that I may grow, right? So that I don't stay in the same place in my life, right? You don't want to just celebrate birthdays and seeing yourself aging, which is a visible, right, growth. You want to go beyond that, right, to where you can definitely take responsibility for your own growth. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this month of August. And I want you to put in your comments, what does growth mean to you? What words come to you when you think about growth? So for me, words about growth that come to me is increase, development, I said about that, progress, transformation, change. Change sometimes implies growth. different, like to be different, right? Sometimes when you're being different, that is growth. So I would like to know what words define growth for you or for your life, or just generally, what's your understanding of growth? And let's focus on the kind of growth that we are responsible for. Okay? So I am left with like 7 minutes. I would like to hear your thoughts around growth. Are you growing? Right? So probably you might have questions around it. We're gonna go through them and interact and engage for the next following weeks. Today I am just launching this, and it's very important, like, for you to be responsible for your own growth, right? You need to be moving, you need to be increasing, you need to be progressing. Yeah, you don't want to be in the same place. Why is that important? It's because the more you're growing, the more you're moving towards, like, closer to unlocking your potential. Like, we have this untapped potential, untapped ability inside of us. So the only way you can truly tap into it and maximize, like, live your life to the fullest with all the gifts and talents that you have, is gonna be through through growing, through making continuous, consistent progress. So growth is very important, because the more you do it, the more you unleash the things that are hidden within you, the things that really maximize your potential. So it is very important that you track yourself and make sure that you are growing every single day, right? So it is important. It's important for your existence, because you're created to grow. You're created to grow. So it shouldn't be only in your physical aspect where you're growing in terms of your body. It has to go beyond. Your mind is created to grow. Your thinking, your intellect, right? Your thoughts, and how you do things, right? So how you interact with people, the relationships you're building, everything is meant to grow. So it's part of you. You're not created to just breathe and be alive. You're created to grow. So it is part of your existence. So it is very important for you to be conscious of taking responsibility for your growth. Okay? So I know my time is out, and I would like to hear from you. My question again to you is, what does growth mean to you? What word come to you that defines growth for you? Which words? If you're to put growth in a sentence, to define growth in a sentence, what would it mean to you, right? So what areas are you working to grow? What areas are you taking responsibility for to grow? Okay, so let me just share some of the topics that we will be covering in the next weeks until the month ends. So one of them is, we're going to be looking at intentional growth versus natural or default growth. So how are you working, or how are you going to focus more on intentional growth? So there is intentional growth where you become more intentional, where I talked about responsibility, and there's that kind of default, natural growth that happens. So we're going to kind of compare them, and how we are going to make growth our own personal responsibility. So that is basically looking at where to grow, where do you need to grow, why do you need to grow in those areas, and how are you going to grow in those areas. So it's very important, right? So you're many aspects. You're a whole being, you're living in different ways and living with different people. So it's very important for you to identify what areas of you are you going to be taking responsibility for to grow, to achieve growth, and why, and how are you going to do that, right? You don't want to be a whole person here and a stagnant person there and something like that. So you don't want to have patches, I suppose, all right? And then the next session after that, we'll be looking at the things that stop us from growing. So even with, we've seen like great economies, great countries, they kind of start off like achieving high rates of growth, you know, when factors, conditions are allowing. But over time, when all is attained and stuff like that, you know, they kind of they go stagnant. Like they're just there. They're not growing further. Or sometimes they grow backwards. They reverse the growth, where we call negative growth. So we don't want that for our lives, right? We don't want to get to a point where it's like life just stops. You're in the same place, you know. Probably you've reached a place where, you know, oh, it's reversing, right? So it's like negative. You're going backwards. So our way would be forward, better, ahead. So what would be stopping you, stagnating you from growing? That's what we're going to be looking at. And then the last session, we'll be looking at, you know, how we can measure growth, right? How we can measure growth and how we can wait on growth. So growth takes time. Growth takes time. If you study the plants, if you study human beings, if you study people who have done great things, if you study like successful projects, if you study like successful countries that have achieved higher growth rates, you will learn that growth takes time. Growth needs waiting, okay? Growth needs work, but also needs waiting. So, where are you? How do you measure your own growth? So those are the things that we're going to be looking in the next weeks. And I hope, you know, we can have questions around it, thoughts and insights around it. So yeah, that's all that I'm going to be doing today, just launching the theme. And I think my time is almost over. So my question out to you again is to assess yourself. Ask yourself, how do you define growth? All right, your own kind of growth. And how do you achieve it, or how do you measure it, and things like that. And let's meet again next Thursday, time like now. And we'll be talking further about those topics. So it was a pleasure to be here. And thank you everyone who's joined in. I am seeing your names, and yeah, so please, this will be up on recorded on our Instagram TV. And yeah, you can definitely watch it and put in your comments. So till then, have a great day. And if you want to know more about Mimi Nani programs that are happening right now or happening soon, the Form 6 leavers, Grade 7 leavers, university students, and those who will be available for December holidays, you're welcome. You're welcome to enroll, to sign up. Check us on the link in bio on our Instagram page. And yeah, you can DM us for any inquiry. So till then, have a great day, and it was nice to have you, to see you. Bye bye.